Coming up on this Wednesday edition of Daybreak, a senior North Korean foreign ministry official arrives in Beijing as China's top nuclear envoy is visiting Washington this week. Speculation is on the rise as to whether diplomacy is underway to revive the six-party denuclearization talks. Korea's current account stays in the black for the 20th consecutive month in September, as many economists upwardly revise their 2013 growth forecast for the nation. Plus, at a congressional hearing, US intelligence officials defend their surveillance activities as part of routine and say media reports of massive spying on European citizens are false. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Wednesday, October 30th, and I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. We start with the latest flurry of diplomacy that has led some to suggest the long-stalled six-party talks on North Korea's denuclearization could restart. North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Kim Hyungjin has arrived in Beijing Tuesday for talks on the nuclear issue, including the six-nation dialogue with South Korea, China, the US, Japan, and Russia. The high-profile trip comes as China's chief nuclear envoy Wu Dawei was in Washington this week for similar discussions. Also Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry stressed the importance of decreasing the global threat of nuclear weapons during a speech in Washington. He said North Korea and Iran should show actions that are fully verifiable under international nuclear non-proliferation guidelines. Turning now to some bright spots in the nation's economy. Korea's trade balance stayed in the black for the 20th month in a row last month. Our economics correspondent Hwang Jie reports on the growing optimism from economists.
The Bank of Korea said Tuesday that the surplus in September's trade of goods and services stood at over $6.5 billion, up by nearly $1 billion from the previous month. This is the 20th straight month for Korea to post a current account surplus. Reflecting reduced working days for September when factories were closed for several days to mark Chuseok, or Korea's Thanksgiving holidays, exports of goods fell 2.7% from a year earlier to $46 billion, while imports dropped 3.5% to $40 billion. The service account, which includes tourism and shipping, also totaled to a surplus of around $870 million in September, following a surplus of $100 million in the previous month. With signs that both exports and domestic spending will improve in coming months, local and foreign brokerage houses are raising their projections for the Korean economy for this year and next year. Japanese firm Nomura has revised up its 2013 growth outlook for Korea to 2.9% from its earlier forecast of 2.7%. It maintains its 4% growth projection for next year, the most optimistic forecast among major brokerage houses. Samsung Securities has also raised its growth outlook by 0.4 percentage points for this year and by 0.3 percentage points for next year. The move by brokerage houses came after the Bank of Korea said last week that the nation's gross domestic product rose 3.3% in the third quarter of this year from a year earlier, the fastest pace of expansion in nearly 2 years. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Korea has been ranked one of the top places to do business in the world. The country edged up one notch to 7th in the global ranking in terms of business environment. The Finance Ministry says Korea has kept its place in the top 10 out of 189 countries on the World Bank's Doing Business ranking for the third straight year. The ministry adds the improved business conditions came from the government's efforts to streamline business regulations. Singapore led the annual competitiveness scorecard, followed by Hong Kong, New Zealand, and the United States. Over at the National Assembly, the price of rice raised many voices inside and outside the Agriculture Committee's annual audit. Our HyunJin reports on a heated debate surrounding the nation's staple crop.
Lawmakers sitting on the Parliament's Agriculture Committee demanded on Tuesday that the Agriculture Minister report on government plans to raise the target price of rice. In Korea, if local rice prices fall below a target price set by the government must guarantee farmers 85% of the difference between the two. A target price is set for 5 years, and the government needs the National Assembly's approval if it wants to change it. The target price has been frozen at 170,000 won, or about $160 per 80 kilograms of rice, for the past 8 years. Agriculture Minister Lee Dong-pil told lawmakers that a plan to raise the target price by 2.4%, or about $4, is being considered, and added that an increase above that level is unlikely. Rice farmers attending the parliamentary audit jumped to their feet in response. They said that overall prices have risen 24% over the past 8 years, and said raising their target price by just 2.4% won't make any difference.
The agriculture minister doesn't seem to have a desire to improve the harsh conditions we face. It hurts me very much.
The government is wary of raising the target price, saying it will drive up rice production, which will place additional budgetary burdens on it. But my party believes the target price should go up, not simply to compensate the income losses of farmers, but to provide them a safety net they need in an increasingly competitive market with FTAs.
The lawmakers and the agriculture minister reached an impasse, and the audit came to an abrupt halt. Farmers want the target price raised to $217 per 80 kilograms, which they say is the minimum level that can sustain their rice production. Given the rate of inflation and the increase in production costs over the past 8 years, some lawmakers say the target price should go up to more than $300. 김현지, Arirang News.
Tuesday marked the 50th anniversary of Korea's Savings Day, a day which honors and celebrates saving money. The frugality played a huge part in transforming Korea into economic powerhouse. These days, the rate at which Koreans tuck away their money has tumbled. Yurian reports.
Members of the Women's Savings Federation have taken to the streets, calling on everyone to get a savings bank book.
This is a scene from a savings campaign in Seoul some 40 years ago. Fast forward a few decades to this Tuesday, the 50th anniversary of Savings Day, which was first designated back in 1964. The nationwide movement for savings played a big role in transforming Korea from a nation of poverty into an advanced economy, with the nation's household savings rate rising from 5% in 1964 to over 24% by 1988. But as of last year, the figure has slumped to 3.4%. Out of the 25 OECD member states, Korea ranked in the bottom tier at 18th place as of 2011. So why are less Koreans saving? Well, for some, it's the high living expenses.
There's nothing to save. The education costs for my children and the price of goods are all too high. How can we save?
A drop in interest rates, especially since the Asian financial crisis, has also played a role.
The problem with low interest rates is that it induces people to create more debt rather than save. People spend by creating debt rather than through savings.
But businesses, on the other hand, are having an easier time. Their rate of savings has reached nearly 20%.
Ever since the global financial crisis, households' real wages have remained stagnant, while businesses' income has been rapidly increasing.
And while that may be good news for businesses and the Korean economy looking forward, the uphill climb to save continues for ordinary citizens. Given the rapidly aging population, experts also warn the low savings rate could place a heavy burden on retirees in the years to come. Yurian, Arirang News.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world,
Return to the negotiations.
President Park Geun-hye plans, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a...
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday that America's top intelligence officials were hauled up before a House committee Tuesday to explain their agency's actions amid a series of reports about the scope of the National Security Agency surveillance activities. NSA Director General Keith Alexander defended his agency, telling the committee that the NSA's main focus was preventing attacks on Americans and allies and that it operates under strict oversight. Alexander also called European media reports that said the NSA collected data on tens of millions of phone calls in France, Spain, and Italy completely false. Other witnesses at the hearing included Director of National Intelligence James Clapper and Deputy Attorney General James Cole. Clapper said the U.S. did not indiscriminately spy on other nations and stressed other nations spy on U.S. officials as a matter of routine. Greece's former foreign minister says the United States is not the only country eavesdropping on foreign diplomats. In fact, he admitted his country's Secret Service agency monitored U.S. ambassadors in the 1990s. Speaking on a radio program on Tuesday, Theodoros Pangalos said Greece's spy agency were monitoring not only the American ambassador in Athens, but also the American ambassador in the Turkish capital, Ankara. He said the monitoring did not last long, but declined to give a specific time frame. Pangalos served as Greece's foreign minister from 1998 to 1999. In a sign that marriage in Korea is moving away from long-held traditions and making room for new trends, Kim Min-ji tells us how there have been shifts in preferred months for marriage and how more women are marrying younger men.
Marriage is changing in Korea. October has become the most favored month for tying the knot. According to new data from Statistics Korea on Tuesday, of the roughly 4.2 million couples who married in the years between 2000 and 2012, more than 38,000 of them tied the knot in October. November was the second most popular month for marriage. Experts said the couples are choosing to marry in the fall because of the cooler weather and because they want to get married before they get a year older, which, according to tradition, happens with the start of the Lunar New Year. May, which has long been acknowledged as the month of weddings in Korea, came in third with over 34,000, while the summer months were the least favored. Another new trend on the marriage front is that many couples are breaking away from the Korean tradition of women marrying older men, or vice versa. Statistics Korea attributed this trend to the rise of women in the workforce and their increasing social status. For first marriages, the number of couples in which the husband was older than his spouse came to about 68% last year, dropping from 74% in 2002. In the same period, the number of married couples in which the woman was older than her spouse was 15.6%, an increase of 4%. The data also showed that couples are delaying the age at which they get married, which has risen over the past 20 years. In 1990, men were marrying at age 28 and women at 25. Last year, men got married at an average age of 32, while women chose to tie the knot at 29. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
With smart devices continuously breaking down communication barriers, a visit to the doctor may soon be just a video call away. Our Park Ji-won reports on plans to introduce the so-called telemedicine consultations here in Korea.
The Ministry of Health and Welfare announced plans on Tuesday to revise current medical laws to allow for telemedicine services in Korea. As it stands now, interactive video conferencing and remote consultations are options for doctors, but the change would represent the first time that the telemedicine programs will be available between patients and doctors. The telemedicine consultation programs in Korea would first start with remote healthcare monitorings, enabling medical professionals to consult with patients at a distance through computers. The teleconsultations, however, will be limited to low medical risk patients, such as those who suffer from high blood pressure or diabetes. It will also be limited to patients who already have medical records with doctors. Those who live in rural areas where access to medical professionals is limited will be given priority in the telemedicine services. After a thorough examination, the Health Ministry says the revised legislation on telemedicine services will be submitted to the National Assembly at the end of this year, and the law will come into force as early as 2015. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And a good Wednesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2013 Korean series between the Doosan Bears and the Samsung Lions. Now, with the Samsung Lions facing elimination, Game 5 was a must-win situation. Lose and the Doosan Bears win it all, and you're going back to Daegu. So with that said, let's take a look at the highlights from Game 5. Of course, starting pitchers for Game 5, No Kyung-eun for the Doosan Bears and Yoon Sung-hwan taking the mound for the Samsung Lions. But in the first inning of the game with 2 men out, Choi Tae-in sends one to opposite field. This one is gone. A solo shot puts Samsung up 1-0. Next play, Park Sung-min an RBI single to right field, and it's 2-0. But what do you know, we're not done yet. This time it's Kim Tae-won, another RBI single to right field, and Samsung takes an early 3-0 lead. Second inning, big man Choi Jun-suk at bat, and he drills his hanging curve. Back. Gone, a solo shot. Cuts the deficit to 3-1. Next inning, this time it's Chae Young-woo, and he drills this one to deep left field. This one is gone. Another solo shot. Puts Samsung up 4-1. Now, bottom of the inning, Choi Jun-suk once again, this time an RBI single to left field, and it's 4-2. We're going to go up to our next batter here, Oh Jae-il. He's going to send this one to deep left center field. It finds the gap, and it's a game-tying 2-run double. And what do you know? We have a new ball game. Fifth inning, more from Samsung. This time, Park Sung-min with an RBI single to center field gives the Samsung Lions the lead once again. But Choi Jun-suk at bat once again, and this time he goes the opposite way, and it's gone. His second home run of the night, and it's tied 5-5. Shifting over to the 8th inning of the game, men on second and third, Park Han-hee, a clutch 2-run single to right field, and Samsung takes the lead once again, 7-5. Now, Oh Seung-hwan coming in to close the game, and what do you know? He's absolutely lights out. Ball game over. Samsung takes Game 5 and sends the series to Daegu. All right, with that said, staying in baseball now, after enjoying his successful rookie season with the LA Dodgers, Lee Hyun-jin came back to Korea on Tuesday. When asked about his rookie season, he gave himself a 99 and was pleased with his first season in the majors. Now, he added that if Oh Seung-hwan, Yoon Sung-min, and Lee Dae-ho were to join the majors, they would actually have a better year than he would, as he hopes to see more Koreans join the majors as well. Now, Lee Hyun-jin finished off his first season in the major leagues at 14-8 with an ERA of 3.00. All right, next up, let's take a look at Tuesday night's KBL action. We had one game that took place yesterday as the Changwon LG Sakers took on the Ulsan Mobis Phoebus. Of course, going into the game here in the first quarter of the game, a tight game as Moon Tae-jong helps LG take a 20-18 lead in the first quarter before going into the second half of the game with a 43-34 lead. But going over to the second half, a different story as Mobis starts rallying back, outscore LG 23-17 in the third quarter, before Rod Benson finishing the game with 29 points and 13 rebounds, including this one, 15 points in the fourth quarter, as Mobis comes back to take this game 79-72. All right, with all that said, moving on to women's volleyball. Now, with the men's league having their media day on Monday, the women's league had their media day on Tuesday. Now, while most of the 6 head coaches from the league stating that they'll be going after the championship this season, as they always do, they also voted IBK Altos as the favorites to win this year's title. Now, the IBK Altos, who are the defending champions, dominated last season as head coach Lee Jung-chul hopes to repeat last year's success. All right, finishing things off on the golf course, 16-year-old Lydia Ko, who's been dominating the LPGA events despite her amateur status, was granted tour membership by the commissioner, Michael Wan. Despite the rule book stating that one must be 18 years of age in order to earn the tour membership, the Korean-born New Zealander petitioned to be granted the membership and, what do you know, got what she wanted. As an amateur, Ko had to forego over $900,000 in prize money as she's set to make her professional debut during the CME Group title holders set to take place from November 21st to the 24th. And that is going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Happy Wednesday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, beautiful breeze autumn weather is on tap today across the nation, but expect much chilly morning lows today. So we'll start off at 6 degrees Celsius. That's about 3 degrees lower than yesterday, but we'll get plentiful sunshine. But even if there is autumn sun shining down on us, the top temperature won't soar that much. In fact, daytime highs will be lower than yesterday, so please take out your coat, mufflers, dress in layers to keep yourself warm and not to get sick. And right now we are looking at clear skies. There are no clouds are hovering over our peninsula, but as we go through the day, a few clouds might be rolling into the nation, so expect gorgeous blue skies with wispy clouds. And tomorrow's weather outlook seems to be similar to today's weather. Single digits morning lows with daytime highs hovering in the mid-teens in most regions. Fall weather in Korea is the most predictable, with sudden changes in the weather unlikely, so expect to have similar weather pattern for the rest of the week, but please notice the low temperatures in the morning and evening hours and bundle up tight for your morning commute. With that in mind, it's time to take a look at the readings for today. The afternoon high in Seoul will make it to 15 degrees Celsius, which is 59 degrees in Fahrenheit, and Daegu and Gwangju will get up to 18 degrees respectively, while Busan will have a mild autumn day at a high of 21, and there will be nothing but sunshine in those regions. And let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju will see a few clouds with a high of 20, while Daejeon and Dokdo top out at 16 and 15, but Mount Gyeongbang will stay in the single digits in the afternoon at a high of 8. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Don't forget to bundle up tight for your morning commute, and please join me again for another updates at noon, and hope you have a wonderful day.
Those are the stories we have for you this hour. Thank you for watching.